The Virtual Boy. Launched by Nintendo in 1995, it promised to take players to immersive, 3D worlds. It was advertised as the future of gaming. Little did we know, it would become a cautionary tale in video game history. The Virtual Boy was a strange beast from the start. Instead of a traditional console, it was a bulky red-colored headset. Games were displayed in red and black vector graphics. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. The Virtual Boy's unique design. It looked more like a prop from a low-budget sci-fi movie. It was this big, red, V-shaped contraption. It used a technology called a parallax barrier. A mirror inside would quickly move back and forth to show different images to each eye. Problem was, it didn't always work as planned. The Virtual Boy was notorious for causing headaches and eye strain. Despite its flaws, it was an ambitious attempt. Now, you might think with a design that bad, the games must have been amazing to make up for it, right? Well, about that. The Virtual Boy's game library was about as big as a gas station bathroom. There were a grand total of 22 games released for this thing, and let's just say most of them weren't what you'd call system sellers. Don't get me wrong, there were a few diamonds in the rough. Red Alarm was a decent 3D shooter that actually made clever use of the console's unique capabilities. Teleroboxer offered a surprisingly immersive, if a bit repetitive, take on boxing. And then there was Mario's Tennis, a surprisingly fun tennis game that actually managed to capture some of the magic of its console counterparts. But for every decent game, there were a handful of forgettable experiences. The Virtual Boy's limited game library was one of the biggest factors that contributed to its downfall. Remember that feeling of excitement when you first opened the box of your favorite console? The anticipation, the promise of countless hours of gaming bliss? Well, the Virtual Boy generated about as much excitement as a wet sock. Consumers were immediately put off by its clunky design, eye-straining display, and less than stellar game library. Critics weren't any kinder. Gaming magazines and websites ripped the Virtual Boy apart, calling it a technological disaster, a headache-inducing nightmare, and a whole lot worse. Despite Nintendo's best efforts to market the Virtual Boy as the next big thing, it bombed harder than a Michael Bay movie. It sold a measly 770,000 units worldwide, making it the worst-selling console in Nintendo's history. Ouch. So, the Virtual Boy was a commercial flop, a missed opportunity, a big red headache-inducing missed opportunity. But did it have a lasting impact on the gaming industry? Believe it or not, yes. The Virtual Boy might have just been ahead of its time. It was a crude, imperfect attempt at virtual reality, but it planted the seeds for what would eventually become a multi-billion-dollar industry. The lessons learned from the Virtual Boy's failures, the importance of comfortable ergonomics, high-resolution displays, and compelling content, would go on to influence the development of future VR headsets. Now, fast forward a couple of decades. Virtual reality is no longer a niche technology relegated to clunky headsets and blurry graphics. It's a rapidly growing industry with the potential to revolutionize everything from gaming and entertainment to education and healthcare. Modern VR headsets like the MetaQuest 2 and Valve Index are a far cry from the Virtual Boy. They offer high-resolution displays, precise motion tracking, and a plethora of immersive experiences. But it's important to remember that these advancements wouldn't have been possible without the pioneers who dared to dream of a VR future. The Virtual Boy, for all its faults, was a stepping stone on the road to modern VR. The story of the Virtual Boy is inextricably linked to the legacy of one man, Gunpei Yokoi. A legend in the video game industry, Yokoi was the mastermind behind some of Nintendo's most iconic creations, including the Game & Watch handheld console and the Game Boy. He was a visionary who believed in pushing the boundaries of video game technology and bringing affordable entertainment to the masses. The Virtual Boy was Yokoi's passion project, a chance to once again revolutionize the way people played video games. Sadly, it wasn't meant to be. The Virtual Boy's failure hit Yokoi hard. He left Nintendo in 1996, just a year after the console's release. Despite the Virtual Boy's failure, Yokoi's legacy as a video game pioneer remains intact. It's been almost 3 decades since the Virtual Boy's release, and yet, this quirky little console continues to fascinate and intrigue gamers and collectors alike. Despite its flaws, the Virtual Boy has achieved a certain cult status, becoming a sought-after collector's item and a source of nostalgic amusement. Perhaps it's the sheer audacity of the console that continues to capture the imagination. In an era where most consoles were content with refining existing technologies, the Virtual Boy dared to be different. Whatever the reason, the Virtual Boy continues to hold a special place in the hearts of many gamers. Ready for some Virtual Boy trivia to impress your friends? Did you know that the Virtual Boy was initially envisioned as a handheld console? That's right. Nintendo imagined a portable VR device, but the technology just wasn't there yet. Ever heard of Jack Brothers? This Virtual Boy exclusive was actually a pretty decent top-down shooter starring Jack Frost from the Shin Megami Tensei series. The Virtual Boy had a built-in rumble feature. Too bad most games didn't really use it. The Virtual Boy was actually more powerful than the Super Nintendo. It's true, at least on paper. Remember those red and black graphics? It wasn't just a stylistic choice. Nintendo opted for a monochromatic display to keep costs down. The story of the Virtual Boy is a complex and fascinating one. It's a story of ambition, innovation, failure, and ultimately, resilience. While it may not have achieved the commercial success of its Nintendo brethren, the Virtual Boy's impact on the gaming industry and the world of technology is undeniable. Its failure taught valuable lessons about the importance of user experience, ergonomic design, and compelling content. The Virtual Boy may be gone, but it's certainly not forgotten. So was the Virtual Boy a failure? Commercially, yes. But as a technological stepping stone, its legacy is far more nuanced and enduring than its sales figures might suggest.